So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Dr. Naima Burgess. I live here in New York from North Carolina. I have been in the field of working with people and children on the spectrum for 2 decades, a little over 2 decades. And it's just been a blessing. It's been a calling and a blessing. And it's just something that God has brought me into. It's been something that it's been fun, and it's been something that I've been able to help people understand, babies and also adults on the spectrum. Now I am coming into working with females. People are coming to me who have young ladies in their teens and adult women who want to get the diagnosis ruled in or out because they know that there is something different. And, back in the day, or even now, autism has more so been the thing for boys. And my thing is, boys are more external. We see boys jumping around, being more mobile, and they're just more the ones that are behavioral. So you see their their behaviors. So the girls are the ones that are more to themselves, and they're more meek, and they're more internal. And that is my take on why more girls have not been diagnosed, and we're seeing autism come out in the later years. So that is one of the things that we're going to be touching on today. If you have any questions, just hold it to the end, and I'll give you room to ask your questions. And I'm super excited. So my background, I didn't get to tell you, I have a master's in school psychology, community psychology, a doctorate in clinical psychology, a postdoc in neuropsychology, and experience in neurophysiology. So that's neurofeedback and neurostimulation. We do neuropsych evaluations and therapy, and experience in ABA therapy, and supervising clinicians in ABA therapy. And I get a lot of joy out of helping parents advocate for their children on the spectrum, but I don't only work with children on the spectrum. I do a host of other things. So let's get started. I am going to share my screen. Well, let's see. So I have some troubles with this, guys. So bear with me. I'm human. Let's see, how do I do this? Share screen.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Let me share my screen first. Hold on, let me see. All right. Share. You're seeing the wrong screen. Are you seeing my screen? Does it say
Yes.
autism, boys versus girls?
Yes.
Oh, shucks. Okay. All right. So this is the presentation. So guys, make sure you please write down this website, www.givinghopeLLC.org. That is our website. You can go to our website, you can subscribe to our newsletter, and we have something coming down the pike that you'd be interested in. Okay, this is supposed to, okay, let me, aha. All right, so go that way. I have a child here too, so guys, you might hear me talk to him. So some of the false red flags for characteristics of children with autism: the child doesn't respond to their name. And we do see this typically, but some clinicians might just look at your child and say, oh, your child doesn't respond to your name, your child is on the autism spectrum. You want your clinician to really look at the child and do a full assessment of the child. You don't want to just look at your child and say, oh, my child is not responding to the name, my child is on the spectrum. Your child has healthy development with speech delays, preference of own company. Some children just prefer to be on their own. Children on the spectrum, yes, are typically playing by themselves, or they do parallel play. However, you want to get a full assessment of a child on the spectrum. Development of symptoms after childhood. They line up things like in a line. You may see one of the red flags, and they say that this is a characteristic of a child on the spectrum, and people are diagnosing their children because of these false red flags, that they're lining up things. And you want to stay away from this. Yes, this is something that you might consider a red flag, but you're not going to go into the DSM and see this in the DSM. A child on the spectrum is lining up their items, okay? So you want to stay away from diagnosing your child because they're lining up things. Problems with academics or preferences for geeky activities. Those are just misconceptions, but they are sometimes characteristics that children on the spectrum do sometimes have some of those characteristics, okay? So symptoms of autism spectrum disorder. They do have sometimes delays in language, such as echolalia, and echolalia will look like you may say something and then they repeat what you're saying, and they always are repeating what you're saying. They may repeat the last word of what you're saying. Delayed movement skills, delayed cognitive or learning skills. They may engage in hyperactivity or impulsivity. They may spin in circles. They may throw them. I had a child in the office yesterday, very high functioning, extremely high functioning, but the child would throw himself onto the floor, throw himself onto the chair. And that is because sometimes children on the spectrum have a hard time with being in sync, grounding themselves, feeling grounded. So they will need a more functional way of grounding themselves, feeling grounded, as opposed to them throwing themselves on the floor. So sometimes a child on the spectrum will tie their shoes very, very tight so that they can feel that they are grounded, with their shoestrings lacing, being tight on their feet. Repetitive behaviors, such as like turning the light switches on and off, epileptic seizures, unusual eating and sleeping habits. A lot of times, children on the spectrum, their serotonin in their brain is, and those are serotonin in the brain affects the eating and sleeping, and that will cause the eating and sleeping patterns in the children on the spectrum, and that also will impact their mood, and unusual mood or emotional reactions. So we have a short little video about this young man.
There's nothing like the first day of school. New clothes, new classes, new friends. This year, a kid named Nick came to our school. At first, he seemed a little different. Sometimes during class, Nick makes noises and gets out of his seat. There's a lady that sits in our classroom and follows Nick around, and even takes him out of class when he's distracting us. I didn't understand why Nick got to take breaks or why he got to spend all this time with one teacher. My friends and I thought, what's up with Nick? It turns out Nick has autism. Nick's had autism since he was little. Autism happens inside the brain. This doesn't mean Nick is sick with something completely. It's autism. It just means that we understand something differently than most of us. Once we learned more about Nick's autism, we understood why he takes extra attention. He just needs a little more help than the rest of us sometimes. The lady following him around is his age. She's really helping him class. Small things bond together because of friendship. Hearing, sight, smell, and taste. One person can make it out. Like when we work on projects, we try to have the voice of sound because Nick has trouble focusing with the things we have. Other kids with autism in school might have some responses. But not really. Others won't talk with you, but will tell you things like the month or turn off that sport. It makes them strange at first, but it's just something that talking about money. brought one in. Sometimes, though, Nick doesn't stop talking about model aircraft. Listen because it's polite, but learn that it's okay to suggest new activities too. Some of us from class joined the art club together, and we invited Nick. He mostly draws pictures of planes, but we still have fun doing projects together. Remember that you can always include your friend with autism in activities, even if he or she does it in a different way. Don't be afraid to ask your teacher or an adult for ideas that can work for everyone. Now that we know more about autism, it's no big deal. Nick is just a student and a part of our class like everyone else. So just remember that all of us are different in our own ways. Accepting the differences of kids with autism is the first step to becoming friends and having fun together. It's nothing like the
Oh,
first
wait.
day.
Okay. So that was an example of a boy on the spectrum. Now I want to talk a little bit about girls on the spectrum. And this has actually came about a little bit more so after COVID, that we're seeing more girls on the spectrum and more teenage girls, like I said, and then more girls around the age of 20 that are coming, just are surfacing. And 11 signs of autism in girls are they rely heavily on other children to guide and speak for them. And the parents are extremely frustrated and, very argumentative. In my experience, the parents are highly argumentative with the young girls, and these are higher functioning girls on the spectrum. They express passionate and restricted and specific interests as well. Unusual, very high sensitivity to sensory challenges such as smells and sounds. And I've seen it more so with smells for girls on the spectrum. And it really, really bothers them in my experience. Conversation is restricted to limited topics of interest. Very, very difficult moderating their feelings when they're frustrated. And this is heightened, I believe, more so around the teenage years because of puberty. They have unusual depression, anxiety, and moodiness. They experience difficulties making and keeping friends. They are often described as shy or quiet. They experience unusual passivity, difficulty with social communication, and increases with age. They experience epileptic seizures. And also, it's not here, but these girls also experience being bullied. So why are females less diagnosed with ASD? ASD actually is something that is a newer diagnosis over the past like 20 years. And it has come about, the boys have been diagnosed because it was easier to diagnose their disorder because they were external. And I am seeing professionals that shy away from the diagnosis because a lot of people are hesitant to give the diagnosis unless the characteristics are more blatant. So the girls, if their characteristics are subtle, I can see where a diagnosis will go undiagnosed. So according to National Center for Biotechnical Information, autism is identified in females at a substantially lower rate than in males. And this is most likely due to the misdiagnosis in females. They may not present with the same symptoms as males, and they don't, because the makeup of females and males is very different. And they're diagnosed later on in life. And this also causes a difference in their learning, because the autism brain is.
Guess what? I did it by myself.
I'm so proud of you.
Segundo que me tengo que.
I'm so proud of you. We're going to keep going. But the autism brain is very different. And in one of my previous presentations, I explained that in a lot of instances, they need help connecting the dots. And so if a young lady is not diagnosed early on, of course, she's going to have a hard time with expressing herself and making friends. And let me just keep going, just for the sake of time. Females on the spectrum are less prone to acting out physically or aggressively. They intensively focus on a particular subject, often involving animals or classic literature. They appear anxious when there are changes in routine, highly anxious when there's a change in routine. They observe human behaviors and learn to mask their difficulties. They practice rituals that appear to have no function at all. They often more socially aware and driven, are more socially aware and driven. They may play with dolls or toys well beyond the typical age than these items should be played with or are typically played with. They have a tendency toward perfectionism in certain aspects of their life. They have a high risk of episodes of eating disorders and self-medication. They engage in stimming, such as hand flapping, rocking, or spinning, and these can appear much milder than boys. And they experience internalized thoughts instead of the external behaviors. And they may apologize and appease when they make a social error. In terms of communication, they're more aware of the need for social interaction. They may have an exceptional vocabulary, tend to mimic rather than provide natural responses. They may converse in predictable scripted ways. They seem to struggle with nonverbal aspects of communication, such as body language and tone. You may see them sitting in an awkward way, and you may see them looking uncomfortable when they're engaging with others. They may appear to have difficulty dealing with unexpected verbal responses. They may like shrink as if they're trying to shrink into a shell in uncomfortable situations. They may look like they want to run away if they're like in a group and the situation is uncomfortable for them. More able to follow social actions through observation. And I'm not going to read all of these, and I can make these available to you. They do have a hard time showing empathy non-verbally. And sometimes they are able to receive it, but they do have a hard time with expressing it and understanding social cues. They can misconstrue social situations, and they will need for you to explicitly explain situations, and especially if their feelings are hurt. Like I said, they need help connecting the dots. People on the spectrum, they have a superficial understanding of what's going on, and they understand that there's an A, a B, a C, and a D. However, they need help getting from point A to B, B to C, C to D. So they will need you to connect the dots with them in social situations. And that might become a little extreme and uncomfortable for some friends. So girls on the spectrum will have a hard time making friends and keeping friends. And it makes it difficult for them. They may have difficulty fitting in due to their clothes and the hairstyles that they choose. And then I'm going to show a short video on masking, and then I'll open it up for questions.
Hi, it's Lauren from Autism Academy. There are 3 times the number of boys diagnosed autistic than girls. That means for every 3 boys, there's only 1 girl. Over 75.
And I just want to say, to label somebody autistic means that you are labeling that person autistic. The correct term is person with autism.
Percent of diagnosis being boys. Is autism really more common in males? Or is there another reason altogether females are missed? and today I'm going to talk about masking, also called camouflaging or passing. Masking is where an autistic person acts in ways others think are normal or socially acceptable in order to be accepted by them. You see, as autistic people can be seen as strange, and as a result of this, be bullied and harassed. Masking can be for many reasons, such as for work, where we act happy and friendly, so customers can feel welcomed and valued. Everyone masks, both autistic and non-autistic alike, but if you're autistic, it can be physically draining and cause anxiety and depression. Sometimes called us social burnout. This is because the effort varies depending on who we're with or how we feel. We can need to concentrate and remember to use body language, vocal tone, and expressions. You can see why we feel socially burnt out. Because of laughter, you may never notice someone is autistic, and as girls usually display more masculine behaviours, which also explain why only 1 in every 4 diagnosed experience masking could also lead to them getting another diagnosis altogether. Research is still needed to understand why fewer females get diagnosed. Masking may explain this. If so, there could be many undiagnosed out there who need help. Ask Harvard Autism Academy, so if everyone understands autism, and more of you may realize you're autistic. And with this understanding, you have your life. Will you help us? Do so. Subscribe to them, YouTube, share this video. Hi.
So that is that. I just want to bring to your attention, coming soon in the month of April is our Go Bay Empowered. And Go Bay is, the G stands for giving, the H is hope, B is behaviors, autism, ADHD, and executive functioning, empowered. We're bringing a platform online for parents, professionals, people, where you can log on, go to classes, be exposed to information at your fingertips. You can be coached, have journals, and just information. Just stay tuned, because we will be giving you all the information, like all of my intellect will be online, so that you can just be aware of what autism is, like from the beginning to end, every stage of life, how to empower your child, how to speak to your child. I have videos of me doing therapy with children and giving you the terminology, how to speak in IEP meetings, what to write, how to write letters to professionals, how to speak on behalf of your child. Please be sure to follow us at Giving Hope LLC. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Dr. Naima Giving Hope on YouTube. And be sure to go to our website, www.givinghopellc.org. I'm going to stop sharing and open up the floor for questions. I'm going to stop sharing now. Oh, there it is. Does anybody have any questions?
One of the questions that I have was on the video. Is it possible for us to have the names of the videos? I had a little difficulties hearing it clearly.
Absolutely. Hold on 1 second. What I can do is, what you can do is just, we'll follow up with an email. If you follow with an email, we can send you this recording, actually. That's what we'll do. We'll send out the recording for you. There's a question. Oh, someone sent it. Someone put it in there.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Johnson.
This was very good. Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? All right. Well, thank you. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Please come back and visit us next first Thursday. So we're here every first Thursday of the month. I appreciate you all. God bless you. Be blessed and continue to be a blessing. Take care, everybody.